Beneath the wildflower sky. In a sleepy little village tucked between the rolling hills and endless fields of wildflowers, there lived a young woman named Alara. She was known for her quiet grace, her kind smile, and the way she would always stop to listen to the wind as though it whispered secrets only she could hear. Every morning, Alara would walk to the meadow just beyond the old stone bridge, where wildflowers bloomed in a riot of color and the sky stretched endlessly above. It was her favorite place, not only because of its beauty but because it reminded her of him. Lior. He had arrived in the village 2 summers ago, a traveler with dusty boots, a camera slung over his shoulder, and a journal filled with stories. He'd been searching for peace, for a place where the world stopped rushing, and when he met Alara, he found it. Their love began like a gentle breeze, soft, slow, and sweet. They would sit by the stream, sharing stories and dreams. He would read her poems he'd written in other lands, and she would braid daisies into his hair as they laughed beneath the fading sun. But love, as wild and free as it may be, is often tested. Lior received a letter from his father, calling him back to the city. His father had fallen ill, and the family needed him. It broke his heart to leave Alara, but she, with tears in her eyes and wildflowers in her hair, told him to go. "I'll wait," she said, pressing a pressed daisy into his palm. "Come back to me when the sky turns golden again." And so, seasons passed. Alara returned to the meadow every day. She wrote him letters, though she had no address to send them to. Instead, she tied them to the branches of the old oak tree, hoping the wind would carry her words to him. Years passed. Some said he was never coming back. Others said she was a fool. But Alara never stopped believing. She tended the meadow like it was sacred ground, and every sunset, she'd sit beneath the tree and whisper his name. Then, one golden evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in hues of amber and rose, she heard footsteps. Slow. Familiar. She turned, and there he was. Older, his hair a little longer, his eyes tired but still burning with the same fire. In his hand, he held a worn daisy, the same one she'd given him all those years ago, now preserved in glass. "I never stopped carrying you," he said. Alara ran to him, the years melting between them like snow in spring. He kissed her beneath the wildflower sky, and in that moment, the world felt whole again. From that day forward, the meadow was not just a place of waiting, it became their sanctuary, their story. Lior built a little home near the stream, and Alara filled it with love and laughter. They grew old together, their love blooming brighter with every season. And every evening, they sat hand in hand beneath the oak tree, whispering stories to the wind, stories of patience, devotion, and a love that never faded. When the autumn leaves fell. In a quiet town nestled between golden forests and misty hills, lived a young woman named Clara. She was a painter who spent her days capturing the shifting colors of the seasons, especially autumn. Her art was filled with warmth, yet her heart had long grown used to solitude. After losing her parents young and ending an engagement that left her hollow, Clara had built her life around quiet routines, her brushes, and the rustling of leaves. One crisp October morning, as she painted by the edge of the lake, she noticed a man sitting nearby with a book in his hand. He was there again the next day. And the day after. He sat silently, sometimes reading, sometimes just gazing at the water. His name, she would later learn, was Elias, a writer who had come to the town seeking inspiration and healing of his own. He had lost his younger brother in a car accident just a year before and had been unable to write since. Their first conversation was brief. Clara asked if he minded being painted into the background of her landscape, and he chuckled, surprised. "Only if I get to read your story in color when it's done," he said. She smiled for the first time in days. Over the next few weeks, Clara and Elias began to share quiet afternoons, he, scribbling in his notebook once more, and she, capturing his silhouette among the autumn trees. Their words were few, but their silences spoke volumes. One day, he read her a story he had written, inspired by the mysterious painter by the lake. She cried, not because the story was sad, but because for the first time in years, someone had seen her. They began to walk together in the evenings, wandering through leaves that crunched beneath their feet. He told her about his brother and the guilt he carried. She told him about the fiancé who left without a reason. Each story was a thread, weaving something between them, something fragile but growing stronger each day. Winter approached, and with it, Elias's departure. He had to return to the city to present his manuscript to his publisher. On their last walk, snowflakes began to fall. Clara gave him a small painting of the lake where they met, and he pressed a folded letter into her hands. "Don't read it until I've gone," he whispered. Back in her cottage, Clara opened the letter. It wasn't long, just a few lines. "I came here looking for inspiration, but found something I didn't know I needed. You. If you feel the same, meet me under the old elm tree on New Year's Day. I'll be waiting." New Year's Day arrived with silence and snow. Clara stood at the window, unsure. Her heart raced. Doubts whispered. What if he had changed his mind? What if she was only a chapter in his story? But love, she realized, was about courage. She put on her coat, wrapped herself in a red scarf, and walked through the falling snow to the elm tree at the lake's edge. Elias was there, shivering, but smiling. He stepped forward, took her hands, and said simply, "I've waited all my life to find you." And just like the seasons, something in Clara changed. That winter, they stayed. Together, they wrote a new chapter. Where the Lavender Grows. In a quiet village nestled between rolling hills and lavender fields, there lived a young woman named Alara. She was a florist, known for weaving together the most enchanting bouquets with wildflowers and herbs she gathered each morning before sunrise. Her little shop, Petals of Life, was her world, filled with color, scent, and dreams she had tucked away long ago. Alara had once believed in grand, sweeping love, the kind found in storybooks. But after her heart was broken years earlier, she had chosen a quiet life, where love was something she watched from afar. Then one late spring afternoon, as the golden sun poured over the valley and the lavender was in full bloom, a man walked into her shop. His name was Rowan, a travel writer with wind-blown hair, kind eyes, and a notebook always in his coat pocket. He had come to the village to write about its hidden charm and ended up captivated by the way Alara's flowers seemed to speak a language of their own. "What does lavender mean?" he asked her one day, while gently running his fingers along the petals of a deep violet bloom. She smiled. "Devotion," she replied. "And waiting." That was the beginning. He returned each morning, sometimes to buy a single stem of something he didn't know the name of, other times just to talk. They would walk together in the hills, her bare feet brushing the grass, his hand always gently near hers, not quite touching, but close enough to feel. Rowan would read her pieces of his writing, and Alara would answer with stories of flowers, what they meant, where they bloomed, and which ones only opened at night. As summer deepened, so did something between them, unspoken but undeniable. But just as the first leaves turned amber, Rowan told her he had to leave. His publisher was sending him to Greece for 6 months. "It's my dream," he said, though his voice didn't sound as certain as it once did. Alara nodded, forcing a smile. And dreams should be followed. So he left. The lavender dried. The days grew cold. And the little shop felt emptier with each week that passed. But Alara didn't close her heart. Instead, she filled the space with letters, ones she never sent. She wrote about the first time he brushed a strand of hair from her face. About how the fields looked when he stood beside them. About how she missed him, but hoped he was chasing something beautiful. One snowy evening, just before the new year, Alara returned home to find an envelope tucked beneath her door. It was from Rowan. Inside was a plain ticket. And a note. "Greece is beautiful. But it isn't home. Home is where the lavender grows. Come find me. Or wait. Either way, I'm coming back for you." But she didn't wait. She packed her things that very night and left before the sun rose. When she arrived in Athens, he was waiting at the airport, holding a bouquet of lavender in one hand, and a ring in the other. I didn't want to miss another season, he said, stepping toward her. Neither did she. Years later, the village still speaks of the couple who met in a flower shop. Their daughter plays among the lavender fields, and Alara's shop is more alive than ever, a place where people go to find love, or at least believe in it again. And every bouquet comes with a little card, handwritten by Alara herself. Lavender means devotion. And sometimes, it means the wait was worth it.